In the previous lesson, we had learnt of the origin and history of Kathak. While discussing the origin, I had said that in ancient India, Kathaks simultaneously performed three different roles. Could you name them?
Storyteller, performer, and preacher.
Right. They were telling stories and performing, in the sense that they were enacting the stories with the help of songs, dance and drama, and they were also preaching certain moral ideas. Then we had learnt how this art of storytelling gradually crystallized into a dance form, how the Central Asian influence came in and enriched the form, how Kathak imbibed both Indian and Central Asian, Hindu and Islamic cultural traditions, and we had also discussed the importance of Vaishnavism and how Vaishnavism engulfed all forms of art and also influenced Kathak. We had discussed the importance of the patronage of the Delhi rulers, both the Delhi Sultanate rulers and the Mughal emperors, and then we had gone on to say that towards the end, or rather when the decline was felt in the Mughal Empire, then regional princes started patronizing the dance form. I had mentioned that two areas were very important, two provinces were very important in the development of Kathak. Do you remember the names of the two provinces?
Awadh, Rajasthan.
Right. Awadh and Rajasthan. Now, although various other regional princes had patronized Kathak, these two areas are important because in these places, Kathak developed in style and content. Now, Awadh, this is a very important place in the history of India since ancient times. In fact, it is also identified with Ayodhya of Ramayana. Awadh was a part of the Gupta Empire, a part of the Kannauj Empire. It was again a very important part of the Mughal Empire. Now you know that Akbar's empire was very vast and it was very difficult to control the entire empire from Delhi. And so Akbar divided his empire into several provinces or subas, and the governor of the province was called the Subedar. Now, Awadh was a very important suba in Akbar's empire. The subsequent Mughal emperors also maintained this suba. Now, Muhammad Shah, who ascended the throne in 1722, Muhammad Shah, the Mughal emperor, appointed Sadat Ali as the Subedar of Awadh. Now, by this time, the Mughal rule was weakening and regional provinces were becoming powerful. Sadat Ali, after becoming the Subedar, gradually began to acquire both political and economic power, and from him onwards, his progeny, that is his son, his grandson and so on, started ruling from Awadh. In fact, Lucknow was the capital, and they almost became like independent rulers and claimed that they were the Nawabs of Awadh. After Sadat Ali came Safdar Jung, Shuja-ud-Dawla, and then Asaf-ud-Dawla. Now, during Asaf-ud-Dawla's reign, Awadh had become a very rich area. It was politically very powerful because the East India Company was helping the Nawab, and again it was economically also very rich. I had told you that in the surrounding area, in fact along the Gangetic Valley, there were many families of Kathak dancers. Now, whenever there is a powerful ruler who is happy to extend his patronage, artists will obviously flock to that place. And because Asaf-ud-Dawla, who was reigning towards the end of the 18th century, extended his patronage to all artists, many dancers and musicians came from various parts of what is present Uttar Pradesh to Lucknow. Now, Asaf-ud-Dawla encouraged the dance and music forms. In fact, he encouraged all forms of art and refinement. After him came his son Sadat Khan, and then the famous Wajid Ali Shah, who was not only a great patron of the arts but was himself a dancer. In fact, he spent so much of his time, money and energy on the arts that he was accused by the British of neglecting his kingdom, and so in 1856 he was deposed. With Wajid Ali Shah, the throne of Awadh ended, and in fact the whole province was annexed by the British and became a part of the British Empire. Now, Asaf-ud-Dawla and Wajid Ali Shah were very well known for the patronage they extended to the arts. It was during the time of Asaf-ud-Dawla that Prakash Ji came from the Allahabad area to Lucknow. Asaf-ud-Dawla was so impressed by seeing the dance of Prakash Ji that he appointed him the court dancer of the Lucknow court. Now, who was this Prakash Ji? And was he the only Kathak dancer in Lucknow? No. There were many other dancers in Lucknow. In fact, they all came from various parts of the present Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and they all lived in Lucknow and were either directly or indirectly patronized by the Nawab. Indirectly in the sense that maybe they were not attached to the court, but they were invited from time to time. And seeing that the Nawab was constantly holding dance and music performances in his court, other rich people of Lucknow also started organizing such soirees in their houses too. And so there were a number of dancers and musicians who came to Lucknow. Some were from the traditional Kathak families, and others belonged to the Baiji class, and there were still other folk dancers and many other dancers who flocked to Lucknow. Why Prakash Ji is important is because his descendants, starting with him, of course, he also contributed a great deal, and his descendants contributed even more. With them, the Lucknow style or the Lucknow Gharana of Kathak has gained both in content, number of items, and also in the beauty of its style. Going back to this family, we learn of Ishwari Prasad Ji. Ishwari Prasad Ji lived in what is today known as the Allahabad district. He came from the village of Haria. In English, it is written Handia. Now, although there were a number of Kathak families in this area, as it happens with all art forms when many people are practicing it, that sometimes people are not very conscious of the beauty of the art and there is a subsequent degeneration. Now, Ishwari Prasad ji had a dream. He felt that Natwar Krishna, that is Krishna in the form of a dancer, came to him and requested him to uplift Kathak from its degraded state. Ishwari Prasad ji, on waking up, was so full of the spirit of devotion towards Krishna that he said that from that day he would dedicate his dance to Natwar Krishna. In fact, although Kathak dancers were performing stories from various myths and from our epics, from that day Ishwari Prasad ji performed items only on Krishna. Even the abstract dance he called Natwari dance. Now, Ishwari Prasad ji taught his dance to his 3 sons, Argu, Khadgu and Tularam. Ishwari Prasad ji was a devoted and dedicated dancer and he lived for more than 100 years. Now, after his death, his eldest son Argu ji taught the dance to his sons in turn, who were Prakash, Dayal and Hiralal. It was this Prakash ji, who called himself Prakash Kathak, because as you know that they always associated their name with the art form. So Prakash Kathak came to Lucknow and was received by Asafuddaulah and made the court dancer of the Lucknow court. From then onwards, this family's history is intertwined with the history of the Lucknow court, because Prakash ji and his family were looked after by the Nawabs and they created many beautiful dance items in Lucknow, and all the Nawabs gave them a great deal of encouragement, for which reason perhaps they created even more. In fact, Asafuddaulah, Sadat Khan and Wajid Ali Shah were great, I would say, devotees of the Lucknow Kathak Gurus. The next generation after Prakash ji comprises of his 3 sons, Durga Prasad, Thakur Prasad and Man Singh. Durga Prasad ji again had 3 sons, Kalika Prasad, Bindadin and Bhairo Prasad. Kalika Prasad's 3 sons bring us to the 20th century, Achan Maharaj, Lachu Maharaj, Shambhu Maharaj, and then to our present times with Achan Maharaj's son, Birju Maharaj, and Shambhu Maharaj's sons, Krishna Mohan and Ram Mohan. Now from Prakash ji onwards, we know of their contribution and are amazed by their contribution to Kathak. Prakash ji himself composed, it is said, 360 guts, which were all described and written down in a book called Pothi Prakash. But unfortunately, when there was the great turmoil in the Lucknow court when Wajid Ali Shah was being deposed, this book somehow was lost. But since he taught his guts to the next generation, they have remembered a number of the guts and have handed them down to subsequent generations. Now, Wajid Ali Shah grew up in an atmosphere of dance and music because his grandfather had started the tradition of patronizing these arts. In fact, Wajid Ali Shah had actually learnt dance from Durga Prasad ji and Thakur Prasad ji, and he had great respect for his gurus. Durga Prasad ji and Thakur Prasad ji contributed in a very big way to the development of the Kathak dance style. Now, no art form can really grow up or blossom in isolation. We always see that whenever one art form has reached a high water mark, other art forms have also reached a certain degree of excellence. In fact, if we think of the Lucknow at that time, it was politically stable. Economically, it was very, very rich. Everybody was well to do. And there were artists and artisans who were coming from neighboring areas, and all of them were being looked after by the Nawab and by his ministers and other businessmen. So, when any country or any province reaches this state, it is the time when people no longer have to worry about their necessities. Then they can concentrate on culture, on refinement, on sophistication. In fact, at this time, every aspect of life in Lucknow was consciously being refined. In fact, the art of even speaking to a person was highly stylized. The arts of cooking, of even dressing or wearing your clothes reached a high water mark. Literature, music, everything was as if in its zenith, and obviously the effect was felt in dance too. Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was a poet and a great scholar, and he wrote beautiful thumris. He encouraged others to write thumris. Then he also went a step further. Actually, once he had seen Ras Leela of Mathura and Vrindavan being performed, and seeing this, he wanted something like that in Kathak. So he actually wrote a dance drama, which he called a Rahas, where instead of solo dance, group dance could be employed in Kathak. He wrote a number of Rahases himself and encouraged others to write Rahases too. On special ceremonial occasions, he opened the doors of his famous Kaiserbagh Palace, and the ordinary people of Lucknow could enter the palace and see the Nawab perform a Rahas together with his begums. In fact, he also appointed special dance teachers to teach Kathak to his begums. His love of dance was so great. The Nawab also undertook the very important task of writing down descriptions of the dances that took place in his court. In fact, he has transcribed a number of guts in some of his books, Banni and Najo. We find detailed descriptions of the dance of that period. His contemporaries and friends were Bindadin and Kalka, for whom he had a special affection. Bindadin Maharaj, encouraged by the Nawab, wrote innumerable thumris and bhajans. They were all set to abhinaya or expressive dance, and they have added considerably to the repertoire of Kathak. Even today, no dance presentation of Kathak seems to be complete without including a composition of Bindadin Maharaj. In fact, Bindadin and Kalika complemented each other in performances. Bindadin was an excellent singer and he was very adept at abhinaya. Kalika Prasad, on the other hand, was a master of rhythmic variations and tempo variations. Usually, when Bindadin Maharaj sang and presented abhinaya, Kalika Prasad accompanied him on the tabla and often explained the items. Their age, the age of Kalka Bindadin, is usually called the golden age of Lucknow Kathak. Not only did they add a number of new items to the repertoire, but they also formulated a method of presenting Kathak in a performance. Before this, there was no set sequence in which the items were presented. But today, the sequence that we follow, beginning with the Vandana, then Nrit, starting with Thaat, Amad, Tukra, Toda, Paran, then continuing with Abhinaya and finally culminating in Tatkar. Well, actually this format was presented by Kalka Bindadin and this format came to stay. Kalka Bindadin refined Kathak in its angik, that is in the movements. Of course, this process began before them, but they used the angik and presented them in an even more refined form. After the deposition of Wajid Ali Shah, when Wajid Ali Shah was brought to Calcutta, Bindadin Maharaj continued to live in Lucknow and continued to teach this art form to various dancers who came to learn Kathak from him. They came from all parts of the country, including dancers from the Jaipur Gharana as well. And many well-known Baijis also came to learn from him. He was a wonderful teacher and he never said no to any learner who came to him. Bindadin Maharaj did not marry, but he trained his 3 nephews who were stalwarts in the art form: Achan Maharaj, Lachu Maharaj and Shambhu Maharaj. Actually, Achan Maharaj received the greater part of the training, for his 2 brothers were very young when Bindadin Maharaj died. Achan Maharaj in turn trained his 2 brothers, who again trained Achan Maharaj's son, Birju Maharaj. For Birju Maharaj was also quite young when his father passed away. Achan Maharaj, Lachu Maharaj and Shambhu Maharaj added considerably to Kathak, both in the form of composing new items and also in training a number of dancers. In fact, all the dancers who performed in the middle and towards the end of the 20th century in Kathak were trained by these three brothers. Today, Pandit Birju Maharaj continues the tradition of performing and training. The Lucknow Gharana is unique for its beauty of movements, for its refinement, and for its focus on Abhinaya. In fact, Khubsurti and Nazakat, or beauty and nuance, which were bywords of the Lucknow court and Lucknow culture, also became very important in the Lucknow style of Kathak dance. This is usually called the premier gharana of Kathak because it is so rich both in its compositions and so beautiful in the execution of these compositions. But the Jaipur Gharana is also very important because it has added to Kathak, and we have a third Gharana, the Benares. Today, the difference between the Gharanas is gradually declining as artists are influencing each other. But the Jaipur Gharana and the modern developments in Kathak will be discussed in the next lesson.